Hey, what is up guys, Rob the Undead Gamer here, and if I sound a bit weird, it's because I've got a cold and I'm all blocked up, but we're doing this anyway. So, Persona 5 came out last week, or the week before, I don't really know, it was recent.
Yeah, it was last week. It was last week for the West.
Japanese developer Atlus released the long-awaited JRPG Persona 5 worldwide last week, 6 months after its Japanese release, and the game has released to fantastic feedback and critical praise. The game is exactly at the level the series has been striving for, and it elevates the series perfectly. So why are Atlus in the news? Well, Atlus have done a funny, which honestly I don't think anyone was expecting, especially from a great company like Atlus. Atlus is arguably one of the best Japanese game developers of all time, turning out fantastic games and series like Shin Megami Tensei, Etrian Odyssey, and of course the Persona series, and many more. These guys have been making games since 1986. That's 31 years in the industry.
Yeah, maybe it's because of that they've been idiots. They're old.
So after the Western release, Atlus released a statement aptly named A Note on Persona 5 and Streaming. Oh, Atlus. No. So what does this note from the developer mean to the fans? Well, put simply, the post is trying to tackle Persona 5 spoilers. Atlus have decided to try and limit the amount of video content that YouTubers and streamers can create on their game. Also, the experience
isn't spoiled for people who haven't played the game.
For the longest time, Atlus have shared a very niche and dedicated audience in the West, and Persona 5 is exactly the sort of game that could really break them into the Western market. Like, this game could make Atlus explode over here. So why the fuck are they attempting to limit the amount of exposure that YouTubers and streamers could give to them? For free! This is so typical of a Japanese developer because they don't understand YouTube or Twitch. This is nothing new, of course. Look at Nintendo, who I think honestly are confused about what the internet is. And Square Enix have had some funny ideas about video content. Even Sega, who have attempted to close down YouTube channels like Total Biscuit. So this really isn't anything new, but it just proves once again that these Japanese companies are out of touch. But I think it's been a bit of a surprise for a company like Atlus. Of course, it's understandable that Atlus would want to avoid spoilers, especially with such a story-driven game as Persona, but sadly, this is the age of the internet. Spoilers are gonna happen regardless. It's literally impossible to avoid now that the game is released. Now, Atlus haven't outright said that you aren't allowed to make video content of Persona 5, but they have put some hard restrictions on what you can show. Broken down its basic gameplay, you can also only show up to a certain part in the game's story, which they obviously specify. Isn't that a spoiler in itself?
Yeah, it's the part where...
So this means that straight up Let's Plays and playthroughs of the game on Twitch are a no-no. And I think that most fans would have possibly respected that, had it not been for the threat they added at the end.
No, they added a threat.
This threat basically states that
If you decide to stream past 7/7,
I highly recommend not doing this, you have been warned.
you do so at the risk of being issued a content ID claim, or worse, a channel strike / account suspension.
Oh, good job, Atlus. And that's what ruined it for you.
Of course, how have the internet responded? Well, for the most part, they've been, fuck it, we're gonna stream it anyway. And let's be honest, in perfect internet fashion, they've said, come on then, try and take all of us down, bitch. Which I applaud, as in many ways, this attitude verges on illegal as it goes against fair use copyright legislation. Really, it's a shame for Atlus as a company, and it just shows, once again, how out of touch these Japanese companies are. The amount of help YouTube and Twitch exposure could have for this game will sell copies, and honestly, people are responsible enough to avoid spoilers if they want. Generally, viewers will watch the first couple of hours of the game, see how it is, and then leave if they find themselves wanting to play the game and experience it for themselves. It's also worth pointing out a key quote from this statement from the American branch of Atlus. Our masters in Japan are very wary about it, which is honestly interesting. It seems as that the Western side of the company are trying to distance themselves from this decision. The West gets what this culture can do for the games. You get the occasional shitheads, but we get it. It's almost as if half the company is throwing the other half under the bus. Like it wasn't our decision, blame them. Obviously, this is putting Atlus in the news, but not necessarily for the right reasons. But I suppose you could argue that all exposure is good exposure, but that's down to your opinion. I personally think that it's hurting Atlus a little. Atlus, you're being dummies. Stop. Like, please, can Japanese developers get over this? It's 2017. We help sell copies of your games for free. Like, any revenue we earn from it doesn't even touch the amount you make from sales, so what's your issue? Can't just blame it on spoilers. Anyway guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What's your thought process going on in your brain box? Let me know. As for this, I've been Rob the Undead Gamer. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you next time. Bye bye.